right, welcome everyone. This is a student workshop. Let me share my screen here so you can see what I'm talking about. So today's webinar is about essential financial skills for adult learners. Our host is Amanda Griffith. She's really awesome. I've attended some of her webinars before, and she's really great covering all this stuff. She's a financial well-being officer and a certified credit union financial counselor. My name is Alexander Sharoma. I graduated TSU in 2022, and I am an English and writing peer tutor on the peer support team. And I've been here since I graduated. And a little bit about the peer support team is that students at TSU, we help them out with writing and coursework. So if you have any questions, please reach out. We'll put that at the end. All right, so I'm going to turn it over to you, Amanda.
Alex, thank you so much. And thank you guys so much for attending today. Let me share my screen. Perfect. So today we're going to be going over essential financial skills for adult learners. A lot of this is going to be going over, it's kind of like a financial first aid for you guys, just in case if you have any questions about what you should be doing in a situation where maybe you lost your job or, another COVID attack happens, or say, right now you're just going through, something that's happening in your life that's just uncontrollable. So these are things just to kind of think about for yourself and to kind of go over. It's good. I'm going to send out, pamphlets and stuff like that to everybody after this too as well. And you'll also get the PowerPoint. But we have a lot to go over, so let's get started. So consequences of ignoring bills. So say you come into a situation where you're just like, I can't afford to pay this anymore. You have student loans out there, you have, I don't know, maybe you're just having issues with your job, you lost your job and stuff like that. You want to make sure that you're paying attention to what's coming in the mail. And that's the most important thing I can tell anybody out there. It's very tempting just to ignore the bills and pretend that they're not there, they're not coming in the mailbox. Believe me, I've been through it. Like I said, I don't know if you guys have been on the other ones. I had back in 2015, 2014, I went through a terrible divorce. I'll just tell you why I do financial literacy. But on top of that, I also had my house foreclosed on and my car was repossessed. And this is just because I ran away from a bad situation with my daughters. But because of that, at one point, I ignored my bills. So they would come in the mailbox and I'd be like, I'm not going to look at them. Well, that was the worst possible thing I could do, because in the end, you're going to pay higher interest rates on everything, and they're going to charge you extra late fees and everything on top of it. So say you just went to buy gas last month and you're like, I can't afford to pay this credit card bill. Just think it's going to double. So this is why you can't really ignore your bills. It's gonna, the credit report damage, like I said, once you do something on your credit report, once you miss a payment or you have a late payment, always remember it's gonna stay on there for 7 years. Keep that in mind if you ever had an issue with, not paying a credit card, or you forgot to pay, you got hit with a late fee. Repossession. Oh God, it's very hard. Once your car is repossessed, believe me, I went to go try to buy a new car after because I was getting back on my feet and they saw the repossession. I almost was never able to buy a new car. So mine have always been used. And my interest rate, I think after the repossession, was a 7 or 8%. It was absolutely horrible. So if you ever have your car repossessed, make sure you're calling these companies and explaining your financial hardship to them. They can also do wage garnishment. And I don't know if anybody understands what that means, but wage garnishment, this comes if you forgot to pay a bill and you just stop paying bills. And this is just general, saying this is like worst case scenario if you ever come into this position in your life where it gets this bad. But a wage garnishment just means that, a credit card company actually filed a lawsuit against you, and now they're pulling your paycheck before you even see it to make payments towards the credit card. And when you've gotten there, it's getting really bad and you want to actually contact help, or an attorney or a lawyer or somebody out there to help you with your finances at that point, because it's not fair that they're pulling your paycheck that you're making every day to pay these credit cards. And you have to get the bleeding to stop. The best way to handle a financial crisis is to review and adjust your budget. It's the best thing that you could possibly do. So you want to take action. So say something happens to you and, like I said, you fall into this pit of a hole and you're like, I need to bring myself out. First thing you got to do is adjust your budget. Make sure you're budgeting. Make sure you're keeping receipts for at least a month. I don't care if it's coffee, gas, whatever. You keep your receipts, because if somebody like me comes in and helps you with a budget, I need to know where all your money's going. And if you're not giving me all of your receipts, I'm going to make you go home and save another month, because I need to know why don't you have money out of your paycheck anymore? What are you spending it on? So even if I see like a Starbucks, I'm not going to judge you, but I just need to see everything. Make sure you prioritize your bills, which I'm going to go over in a little bit. And you want to make sure, like I said before, communicate with your creditors. They might not be willing to work with you. They might not care that you're even calling. And believe me, it's happened to me before, but I still called and told them, I am in a financial hole right now. I need help. I can't pay. And actually, some of them did work with me and sent me, forms to, put my payments to the end of the loans and stuff like that. But some of them will just be like, I don't care, pay. But at least you're letting people know what your situation you're in. So the one thing you're going to do is, you're out of college or you're starting a new job. You always want to assess your income. What is your current sources of income? How can you increase your income? Ways to increase income. Say you're looking to, maybe you want to go back to school, or you're maybe looking for a new car. This is the first thing you're going to do with all of this. Or say you want to get a mortgage. You have to assess your income. What is your current sources of income coming in? What are you making? How much is it after, your net pay? Then you're going to want to think of ways to increase your income. Do you have an extra spare bedroom you can rent out? Can you afford to get a part-time job, or do you even have time in the day to do that? Another thing that I've been letting people know is to reduce your tax withholdings. So if you usually get a refund, you can actually claim higher. So you don't get a refund at the end of the year, but you get more back in your paycheck. And if you have any questions about that, I would definitely go to HR and ask them about that, because you can actually, like, I always claim 0, but I was told that if I claim 3, I would get more every time I get paid, but I wouldn't get a tax return at the end of the year. So those are things you really want to look at too as well. Also too, you want to make sure you apply for benefits. If you're unemployed, make sure there's unemployment insurance out there. There's food stamps. There's so many things that you can apply for if you are looking to seek extra income for yourself. So the next thing you want to do, and this is something that you want to, look at if you really are having financial hardship, you're trying to assess, how well you're doing in life and everything. It's always good to assess your assets. What do I mean? So liquidizing assets is one way to pay for immediate expenses, but be sure to consider the cost before doing this. So when you're looking at everything, you want to look at your house, you want to look at your 401k, all that kind of stuff. So if you're really looking for money to pay for something, you can also, there's 401ks that you can take out on yourself. You can also do, a home equity on your home if you have any equity left in your home. And this is all just assessing what you have. I'm just saying, and if you're ever looking for extra money, these are things that you can do for yourself. Maybe able to borrow against some assets is something that you're able to do if you're looking to maybe put a down payment on something. If you're trying to pay off credit card debt, these are things to look at if you're really struggling. Always remember, every time you do something like this, it's putting you more in debt. So remember that even if you take out a 401k loan, you're going to be taking they sometimes hit you up to 45% of taxes, and it's a early withdrawal penalty. So that is your earned money. So anybody that's doing pension loans out there or thinking about it, and I see a lot of people doing that lately, to get themselves out of a jam right now, always remember that's your own money, and that's your money for retirement that you're taking away from yourself. So like I said, after this, if they're going to learn anything from it, make sure you're looking at everything that you own, how much everything is worth. See, if you have to make a decision, if you ever need to borrow against something, these are the things that you want to make sure that you know ahead of time, so you're not scrambling if any kind of emergency came up and you need to withdraw money or something. Biggest thing I always tell everybody, you have to assess your expenses. What are your current expenses? So many people don't do this. A lot of people that I talk to when I'm trying to do financial counseling, and it's really sad, and it's something that I've done before. Like I've said, I never assessed my expenses. And what do I mean? I never opened all of my bills to see how much I actually owed on a lot of things. And that's not very good to do. So you want to know what your current expenses are. And if you don't, you want to call up your creditors and find out. This is something that is very necessary to do. And then you want to see what you can reduce, eliminate, or postpone, but you want to see how much you owe on everything, the true amount. Sometimes it's hard to find out personally because, it feels like once you really know the amount of money that you're in debt, sometimes it's like you're getting hit in the stomach and it just hurts to know how bad the situation is. But it's also an eye opener because that's the only way that you're going to, get yourself off your feet. That's the only way you're going to start from scratch, is to know exactly how bad the situation is. So always remember to know your current expenses. Open your bills, call your creditors, make sure you have the exact amount of how much money that you owe to all your credit cards or student loans or your mortgage or your car loans and everything. And you want to add all that up together. So again, assess the debt. List your mortgages, like I say, your car loans, student loans, credit cards. Make sure the information is up to date. Open all your mails. Call those creditors. Again, it's just very important that you do that because believe me, I've seen a lot of people and they bring their mail in and they want me to open it because they don't want to know the amount of money and how bad the situation actually is, because it's just hard. They haven't been sleeping and stuff like that. So make sure that you have an assessment of all of your debt, of all of your expenses, of all of your income. And why am I saying this? Because you need to budget. And at the end of everything, no matter what you're trying to do, if you're looking to buy a home or a car, maybe you're looking to get married one day, maybe you're looking to have children, there's life events that happen all the time. Everybody needs to review your financial position. So what you do is you take your total monthly net income that's coming in, you're going to minus your total monthly expenses, you're going to minus your total monthly debt payments that are coming out, and it's either going to be a surplus or a shortfall. What do I mean by that? That just means that you're taking a look at your financial position. So I'm just making this up. I work at McDonald's. I put that income in. I make $1,000 every 2 weeks. My expenses are about 750. So you're going to fill all of this stuff out. And no matter what, if you have a surplus, if you're doing good, great. That money should be taken out and put it into a savings account, your 401k, you should be saving. If you have a shortfall, it's not a bad thing because we can help you with that. And that's what I'm here to help you with. There's always ways to make it so you can make yourself financially better. But the only way to figure this out and to know your financial situation is to actually do one of these. And this is pretty much a budget for you. It's easy to do. You just have to save your receipts, like I said, for at least a month to know what your complete monthly debts are that are coming out of your credit, your checking account or your credit cards and all that kind of stuff. What else do you want to do? You want to prioritize your expenses. What is most important? And I teach this to kids all the time. And this goes back to us too. What are wants versus needs? What's important for something that you need to pay? And I always say this, if you're in a financial situation, I tell people, like, if they're really bad and they're struggling, I always say, make sure you're making your mortgage or your rent payment. Don't worry about the credit cards. That's just a company that doesn't even care about us anyway, but they'll always be there. Make sure you're paying the most important bills. Make sure you have and you take care of your essential needs, your mortgage or rent, basic utilities, and your medical insurance. The ones that you can go back to, like the credit cards and stuff like that, don't worry about that if you're really struggling. Bills for which penalties, they will hit you if you're not paying your child support or back taxes. So if you do owe for child support and you're like, I can't afford to pay it, just remember they will put a subpoena against you and that will be called arrears. And you're always going to owe that. And there's things that you're not allowed to get if you have any kind of arrears on your child support. So like I said, you want to make sure you pay the most important bills. Creditor communication tips. This is really important too, because I know a lot of people are afraid sometimes to let creditors know the financial situation they're in. But a lot of times it's very good to be honest. You have to really be specific and honest about your reason for hardship. Tell them what is going on. I lost my job. I can't make that payment this month. At least it'll be noted on the account like we do here. So if you called and said, I'm having a hard time making your car payment here, we'll put a note on your account for you. And we'll try to work with you and have you come in and make like smaller payments maybe towards your car payment. You also want to have a plan for the future. So what I know is let them know that you're making changes so that you can resume paying your bills. You want to make sure that you tell them, like, I am making plans. I don't want to be like this forever. You have to remain calm and polite. I don't know how many people call their creditors and they start telling them off that they hate them. and these people are never going to work with you again. They'll put a note on the account. Believe me, we all have notes on accounts for people. And the last thing you want is for you to be that crazy person because you just told off the creditor customer service rep. So make sure you're calm and polite. I know what you're going through. If you are having a financial situation, it's really upsetting and you just want to tell somebody off. And usually it's that person on the end of the phone because you can't see them. But just be calm, be nice, let them know what's going on. Don't make promises you can't keep. Don't sit there and say, well, I'm going to take my whole paycheck and pay you. That's not real. You can't. You're still going to have to pay gas and for food and stuff. If it's $10, you can send them like I do for medical bills at $10 is that's what they're going to get. Make sure you keep a record of everything you send to them. Make sure you write down, even if you're making a phone call, and be very persistent and always try to call them as many times as you have to get through to somebody. If you're having trouble handling house payments for your mortgage, whether you rent or own, you're making your housing payments should be your first priority. And if you do not pay your mortgage, your house can be foreclosed on. If you do not pay your rent, you can be evicted. Still, sometimes people find themselves in a situation where they just cannot keep up with the payments. And if you do find yourself in this situation, you should contact your lender or landlord immediately. And what will happen is, because I've been there, I had to do a budget sheet for them for 3 to 6 months. They wanted to understand my hardship. And what I actually had to do is I had to actually put my house in bankruptcy. So they actually did that for me. But just remember, when you do all this too, this goes on your credit report for 7 to 10 years. Mine just finally fell off and it's been 8 years. So just remember, when it comes that bad, and this maybe something that you do to get rid of, or say you're going through a divorce right now and you're like, I can't afford to keep the house that we both had because I can't make that payment on my own. This might be something that you do. You could even do a short sale. And what a short sale is just that you're selling your house for a lower amount that your mortgage was for. And this is something that you have to talk to your lender about again. And you're going to have to, find somebody. It's going to have to find a realtor out there that will do that for you. You can also refinance your mortgage. Mortgage rates right now are really horrible. So you want to try to wait till the actual, interest rates go down. Sometimes they'll give you a repayment plan, but I will tell you modifications was a big one. We try to modify our mortgage payments because I couldn't afford to pay it at one point. And what do I mean by modifications? I mean, I missed 3 months worth of my mortgage at one point back in the day when I had my daughters, and I was a stay-at-home mom by myself. And I couldn't afford to make those mortgage payments. So what they told me, they were going to modify my loan and take those 3 payments that I didn't pay and put it to the end of the loan. So it looked like I didn't have those payments for 3 months and I would just pay them at a longer term. So instead of like, say, a 30-year mortgage, it's now like a 33-month mortgage, or 33. Yeah, it's a 31-year mortgage or something like that. So it adds it on to the end of the loan for you. If you're trying to figure out your rent, try to see if you can get a reduced rent with the landlord. There are repayment plans out there, and leave, but you may be on the hook for rent if you have a lease. That's the worst case scenario. If you can't afford renting your apartment right now, you just leave. But you know what? Sometimes the landlord will come out and try to get you, but it's just something that you might have to do. All right. So handling car loans. This is another one. We're all going to have a car. We all have to make payments on it. Sometimes in many states, cars can be repossessed after only one missed payment. So say that you forgot to make a payment on your car. And you're like, oh my God, I can't make this payment. I don't have the money this month. They can actually come and repossess it even if you forgot 1 month. Most banks and credit unions, it should only be 3 months. But believe me, when they come, they will come in the middle of the night and you have no idea. I had 2 car seats in my car, and all of a sudden I looked and I was just trying to get into my car to go to work and my car was gone. They repossessed it like I'm laughing because it was years ago, but now I can laugh because at that point I was hysterical and I'm like, I have to walk to work. But they did it between the hours of like 3 and 5 because I got up in the middle of the night to eat something and I'm like, oh, my car, thank God it's still here. So I would check. Nope, they got me. So they come at the weirdest hours. So make sure if you did not make a payment, you call your lender right away. Tell them that you didn't have the money to make those payments. See if you can get a loan extension if you're able to. If anything, you could try to sell your car, or you do a voluntary repossession, which has been done here. Actually, it's something that I tell some people that are really struggling, that you're better off doing it this way. And what do I mean by voluntary repossession? Driving, so you got a car loan here with the Credit Union of New Jersey, and you hit really rough times and you're like, I can't afford this car. You drive it here, drop it off in our parking lot, leave the keys, and that's it. We have your car, we're in possession of it. That's a voluntary repossession. Instead of us coming and hiring a tow truck to come get an outside company, you're not paying any of those fees anymore because you left the car in our parking lot. A lot of people don't know that, but that's what happens. And then what we do with your car, we go and we sell it, and then we take that money and we put it towards your loan. So that's something that you can also look into doing as well. A lot of people, I don't think, ever realize you can actually do that with your car, especially if your car loan is through a bank. You can literally drive your car to that bank and leave it in the parking lot. I know it's horrible to say, and I shouldn't probably be saying it, but yes, you can. Okay, so another thing, handling utilities. This is one thing that, you have to think about when you're out there and you're trying to think, how am I going to make some extra money? Cancel the non-essential utilities. Do you need cable? I mean, do you really need cable? Why are we paying for cable plans when we can all just sign on and use just like a Netflix or a YouTube TV? It's just cheaper. Those are things that we don't need anymore. And you can also, there's things out there that you might not be using them. You're sitting there and you're like, why am I using these different utilities if I'm paying for something I don't need? So these are things that you want to look at, especially if you're buying a home and stuff. What kind of utilities don't I need? And if you have trouble making payments, like I said, there are repayment plans with utility companies, and there also is payment assistance programs that they have out there. If you are having issues, paying for your utilities, your gas, your electric, you can even call the company and they'll put you on a smaller payment plan, because we do that too, where we pay just a minimum payment and then we'll catch up at another time. So handling insurance, you're going out there and you're like, oh my God, I am a single person and I have to get a car insurance, and car insurance is absolutely crazy because let me just explain to you, car insurance goes by your credit score. Don't ever forget that. So when you go to NJM, Geico, you have to put in your social. What they're doing is they're checking your credit to see if your credit score is high enough for them to approve you. If not, they're going to make you pay this absolutely insane amount every single month. So what do you want to do is say you just don't really have that great of credit, you have auto insurance, increase your deductible. Instead of saying $500, so if you got into a car accident and it's a $500 deductible, which means that you have to pay $500 out of your pocket if you got into a car accident to get anything fixed on your car. You can increase that. You can put it up to 1,000, you could put it up to 5,000, and that actually lowers your premium. Is it smart to do? You're taking a chance, but you actually have auto insurance and you're going to need that in order to drive. So you're going to have to do whatever you have to do to actually make it to get in your car. Also, too, switch to liability only. If you have an older car, there's no reason for you to have full coverage. You only need liability. Full coverage is just very expensive right now, too. And half the time, knock on wood, none of us ever use it. So just switch to liability only. For life insurance, use cash value to make a payment. So if you have a life insurance policy, just remember too that sometimes there's cash value in that. So you want to make sure that you're looking at your life insurance as well. Make sure that you have enough coverage for yourself. You can also reduce your coverage so you're not making that many payments. And healthcare, always remember Medicaid and state health insurance is out there for us. Catastrophic medical insurance. I don't know if anybody's ever heard of that. I've heard of it before, and what it is, it just means that if something happens to you, you're not there. This insurance doesn't pay for you going to a doctor, getting your teeth cleaned. It's not going to help you get eyeglasses. This means that if something happens to you and you have to go to the hospital, this medical insurance only pays for your hospital stay. It's catastrophic medical insurance. That's it. That's all it's going to pay for is your hospital visit. Is it worth it? I mean, you have some sort of medical insurance on yourself, but I think just having that state health insurance and, looking up to see how much the state costs is a little bit wiser. Some people can only afford the catastrophic medical insurance actually sometimes can be more expensive because a hospital stay is more expensive than just a regular doctor's visit. So these are things you can look into as well. Another thing you're going to have to do is handling unsecured debt. What am I talking about? Paying your mortgage or rent is more important than paying your credit card bill. But keep in mind that neglecting unsecured debt, especially if it's done for a long period of time, is going to result in collection and legal action. So, like I'm always telling everybody all the time, if you're in a financial situation, make sure you're paying your mortgage or rent first. But when it comes time now to handle your unsecured debt, and you're like, okay, I'm coming into money, my degree paid off from college, it's time to start paying these bills. You want to make sure that you look at everything. Make sure you're opening everything, you're calling them these places. You want to make sure that you call the creditors, see how much the interest rates were jacked up to, see how much fees that they charged you on everything too, because sometimes they will charge you for not paying. You can go through a hardship program. It is temporary and it lowers the payments, but I haven't really seen any programs out there. I know I go through Balance. I one-on-one partner with Balance, and it's one of those companies that actually do debt repayment options for you. And they're absolutely brilliant. So if anybody here ever needs it, I'm going to show you a slide at the end too that helps going over credit review and stuff like that as well. But they actually help do handling unsecured debt.
Okay, I'd like to ask a question real quick.
You go right ahead.
So regarding debt, do you have some type of trick or tip in tackling the debt? I've heard such strategies like the snowball method or tackling the highest percentage, like the debt that has the highest percentage growth to tackle that one before the ones that have lower interest rates.
Yes. So there's two ways. You're totally right about the snowball effect. That was awesome. So the first thing you can think of, if you're somebody like me, you could be like somebody like me where I like to pay something off, even if it's the smallest thing. Okay. And it's say the credit card's like $400. I make that $400 payment. It's paid off. I'm so happy. And then I start working on other ones because for me, I get happy just on the small things being paid off. But in actuality, what you should be doing is, like you said, you should be paying payments on something with the highest interest rate because those are going to be there forever. And you want to try to get it paid off. Because if you're saying like you're getting a 30% interest on like $5,000, that credit can stay there for 30 years and you're making payments. It's disgusting how long credit card loans are out there for. And when you see that data, some people have had the same credit card payment for 18 to 20 years and they just can't get it paid down because they're only making the minimum payment. So you want to try to take whatever you have extra and, like I said, keep on making payments towards it. Once that pays off, you go to the next one, then you pay that one down. Then you go to the next one. So you're going to do minimum payments on everything else and you make sure you're paying off that big one at all times. Or like I said, you could be like me. You pay off the small one and then you start on the big one because you're like, oh, well, let me take care of the small ones first and then I'll worry about the big one. It's whatever works for you, whatever makes you really start making these payments. And if anybody has issues or just has questions about their payments, please let me know as well. So the next thing we're going to talk about is handling student loans. So there is forbearance and deferment out there. There's like that temporary suspension of payments. If you have a student loan that you consolidated to a bank or like a Citizens Bank, or say you did it through us or something like that, those don't have any kind of deferment or forbearance. Those you need to pay. So you want to see if your loan is still through the government, it's something that you can actually try to get it, suspended or, deferred. But if you do have it through a banking system, there's no way that this is going to happen for you. You can also handle a student loan if you're able to at one point and you're actually doing very well in your job. You can also get a personal loan that you can take out, or you can get a secured loan, which is something I can go over in a little bit. But you can also take out a personal loan, pay off your student loan, and just, pay that personal loan so it's not sitting there anymore, which means a lot of times when I see student loans, and I've seen it before, they're from all different companies, and you're paying like $50 here, $50 there, because every year you're taking out, these different loans, and you're paying different places. And I think it's very easy, and I think it's the best option for a lot of students when they just graduate to consolidate your loan. Make sure you know who you owe and how much you owe all together, and just make one repayment plan. Just put it into one payment, because that's the easiest way you're going to handle a student loan out there. You don't want to try to go into default, because they're going to look at your student loan like, why you can't pay for this, something like that. Why are you having issues paying for that? A lot of people are coming out of school right now, and their student loan payments are pretty much like a mortgage payment. It's disgusting. Like, I can't believe the amount of money that some people have to pay. I know of one person who went to college for 5 years. She didn't like her first school. Her payments are $1,500 a month in student loans. She's over $104,000 in debt. And that's just because she went to some school in Connecticut for 2 months, didn't like it, and they still charged her for like $80,000. It was just insane. So you want to really get a handle on your student loans. You want to know how much you owe. You want to make sure that you have everything consolidated into one payment, because it's just horrible when you're seeing somebody trying to pay all these different payments all together. We do have here at the Credit Union of New Jersey consolidation loans for you for student loans. So if anybody has any questions about that, please let us know. I can send you the link for that too as well. Handling child support. If you have that situation where, at one point, maybe something didn't happen in your marriage and you are unfortunately handling your child support, you have to pay. If a formal court order is in place, you must go back to court to request change in payment amount, and modifications are not retroactive. So just remember that handling child support, you want to make sure that you're making your payments. You don't want those arrears put on your, my ex-husband didn't pay me for years, and he was up to, I don't know, $16,000, $17,000. And he was never allowed to get his tax returns back. He was never allowed to apply for certain things out there. And I don't want to see anybody else really have that situation in their name. It wasn't something that I really wanted for him. And it's not something I wouldn't want for anybody else. So just make sure that if you are handling child support, or you are going through a divorce and you have to pay alimony, make sure you still go by the court order, because they will get you in the long run. Make sure you're making your payments, have them automatically withdrawn from your account. And I'm not saying that some of you guys will never have to go through this, and I hope you don't. But if you do, this is something that's real and it does happen. They will take those payments right out of your account. So make sure, you know what's going on. You have all of your court documents in front of you and all that kind of stuff for yourself. So handling taxes, file if you have not done so. The IRS is generally willing to work with taxpayers who want to get back on the track. And if you haven't filed in years past, do so right away. It is a crime to not file a tax return when you owe taxes. So you want to make sure you're handling your taxes good too as well. If you're on your own and you graduated college and now you're doing it, and anytime you get a 1099, you want to make sure you make an appointment with, a really good, somebody that does really good taxes for you. I usually do mine online for free with Free Tax USA. Is that something that I would tell anybody else to do? If you're not used to doing your own taxes and you really don't understand the laws with taxes, no, I wouldn't do that. I would actually go and work with somebody just to get the idea of what you're filing. Maybe you want to look too, if you're saying that you want more in your paycheck every month, they can also help you see what number you should actually file when you do your W-4, when you get when you're with an employee. So these are things that you want to sit down with a tax person. There's so many questions that you want to go over. And if you have any questions too, please let me know. I can actually find somebody that can help you with that too. So just remember too, your rights. FDCPA. So what is FDCPA? It's the Federal Fair Debt Collection Practices Act. And what it does, it regulates collections agencies, and it prohibits bill collectors from calling you multiple times a day or at an inconvenient time. It prohibits you from them contacting you at work if you tell them that your employer disapproves. It prohibits them from letting a third party know that they are trying to collect a debt from you. And it prohibits them from using false threats, obscenities, racial slurs, or insults. Those are your rights. And if you send a written request to the collection agency and let them know to cease communication, all of this has to stop. So if you are being harassed and say that you've come into that position where they will not stop calling you, remember, you have rights as well. And all we have to do is I have the address for you. You just have to send a letter in to say, stop all communication. You do not want to be harassed anymore. They should not be threatening you. They should not be calling your work. They should not be calling other people to try to get to you, because I've seen that happen before. They shouldn't be calling you 5, 6, 7 times a day where you're looking at your cell phone and your stomach is dropping. So know that you also have rights against your bills. Also know too, they shouldn't make you constantly feel like you're like being watched all the time as well. None of this should happen to you, and it's very easy. You can stop all of this. You just have to have that written request sent to them that you want to stop all communication with your debtors. And what's the most greatest thing that I can ever tell you to do after is try to rebuild your credit. You know, you're going to suffer credit report damage at one point in life. We're all not that perfect. And if you are, that is absolutely amazing. If you can pay your bills every day from the moment that you graduated college until you are retired, you are amazing. But life happens and sometimes we forget stuff. And just remember, you are going to suffer a little bit of a credit report damage, but it's not the end of the world. You know, there's more important things than that. Credit can always be rebuilt. You know, you just have to make sure you always remember to keep on paying on time. Keep your balances low between that, you know, make sure there's less than 30% utilization. So if you have $1,000 credit card, only use $300 of it. That's what they want to see. Get new credit if you have none. Try to go out and get a secured credit card or a secured loan. And what do I mean by that? You go and you give me $500 or $1,000, I put it into a savings account and I can give you either a credit card or a loan on that. So I don't need to do any kind of credit check, because honestly, you're giving me the money to secure it into a savings account. So everybody gets approved. And it's the easiest way to build your credit. And if you have any questions about that too, please let me know. I can help you with that right away. And the biggest thing to do is always start saving. Have savings, try to put, I always say this, they always say 3 to 6 months worth of essential living expenses. But let me tell you, if you are able to save at least 1 month of worth of essential living expenses, and I'm talking about your rent or your mortgage, you're doing a lot better than most people that I see. Because some people don't even have $500 to their name right now. So you want to just make sure that you are savings. Best thing to do is have that withdrawal come out of your paycheck, even if it's $5 or $10 and it's automatically being pulled from your paycheck and put right into a savings account so you don't even see it. Ask your bank, ask us, ask any credit union. We will take care of that for you, just so you could start saving something, a little bit of something. $5, $10, it does add up after a while. And when your financial crises are over, you start setting aside whatever you can, and you just keep on trucking along and making as much money as you can, and try saving, and just make sure that you're really looking at everything and you know your whole financial situation. Because I know that once it happened to me, I will never let that happen again. You know, will I forget a payment here or there once or twice? Maybe, probably, but we're human. But just remember, it's not the end of the world if we have bad credit. It's not the end of the world if you can't make a payment for something, but you just have to know how to come over that and how to, set aside some sort of money, or talk to them, or call your creditors and let them know the situation you're in, because it really isn't the end of the world. And you can always get a new car one day. You can always buy an old car, or you can always get another mortgage. Things, your credit score will go back up. Like I said, it really isn't the end of the world. And if anybody has any issues with that, please let me know. I am here to help. But this is Balance. This is what I wanted to show you guys. Balance is a financial education and counseling service. We partner with them. They're absolutely amazing. They're completely free for everybody that's on here. They actually do debt repayment options, credit report reviews, and so much more. And you just go on to cunjbalancepro.org, or you can, contact me and I can do the same for you as well. But I really want to thank everybody. And please, if you guys have any questions, please ask me.
I'm looking at the chat. We don't have any questions. I think someone has raised their hand. Go ahead and feel free to put it in the chat if you have something.
I am going to put my email address in the chat too as well for everybody. So if anybody has any questions, even in private, or they just want to ask me, just please email me and I will answer any questions. I can help you with anything, even if it's just a credit review or budgeting, or say you're in college and you're like, I don't know how I'm going to pay everything together. So please, I'm here to help.
Let me ask a few questions just in case. Oh, somebody is asking a question.
Oh,
How
okay.
to credit repair?
So you're asking how to do like a credit repair on your credit? So if you're looking to do credit repair, so say you want to, your credit score right now is, I don't know, a 600 or 500, and you're looking to actually build that credit. The first thing you want to do is a credit review. So you want to actually print out your whole credit report. That's the first thing that I would do with you. The second thing I would do is see what you have outstanding. Is there a way that you can put money into a secured loan? We could pay some bills off to get some of that credit, that debt out of your hair and just make it into one payment. The next thing I would say to do is try to get a secured loan. There is debt repayment options through Balance that we could use for you that might work, where they consolidate all of your debt into one. Credit repair takes time. It's not something that happens quickly. And if anybody ever tells you that, that's completely false. And always remember that credit repair is something that takes, a year, 2 years to bring up your credit score. But we can work with it and we can try to help you. And that's what I'm here to do along the way. So please let me know.
All right, we got another question. It says, what is the best way to make an appointment with Mandy for credit counseling? Do I call Balance first or reach out to Mandy first?
So what I want everyone to do is reach out to me first. And what I want to do is sit down with you and go over your whole financial situation. And if I feel that, there's something that might be out of my hands and it's, and Balance might be able to help better with, then we'll actually call Balance together. And that's something that would be completely free for you guys, but definitely contact me first. That's what I want everyone to do, is definitely contact me first with anything.
Let me ask one, or it's more of a comment. One thing that I found interesting when I tried to, or very helpful when I tried to see where can I save money. I think that you probably heard about this, the latte factor, where they say if you had bought a coffee every day, like if you spend about $3 every day on a coffee, that adds up. And I think, yeah, 3 times 365 will be about $1,000 in a year. So that's one trick that I've implemented to see where I could save money. Even with super small things like just $2 or $3 a day adds up to 1,000 in the year.
It's huge. So I don't think people realize every time you go, and some people do like Starbucks and they every day. And I'm like, that's $7, $8 that you could be putting away. But all you have to do is make your own coffee at home or at work. You don't have to have this whoopee froppy thing. You can make this stuff at home and it could be free. And if you actually took all of that money, like you said, you have no idea how much somebody can save by the end of the year. And that's just a one coffee a day. So you're totally right. And if anyone's looking to say like, well, how do I save that quick? Do that. Make sure that you have one thing that you're going to cut out. It could be lunch. It can be getting a coffee. It can be maybe if you have issues with getting, going out to dinner all the time, stop that for a couple months and see how much you can save, because that's a huge eye opener.
All right, we do have another question. It says, is a personal debt consolidation loan a good plan, or does a company consolidation loan hurt your credit score?
So a personal debt consolidation loan, what that means is that we take all your debt and we do a personal loan for you, or we could do a secured personal loan for you. There's ways that we can get around it. Now, if you go with a company for a consolidation, there's places like GreenPath and stuff. What they do is you pay them money, and I was told by somebody at one point that they weren't even sending the payments to the companies to pay it off. So a lot of times they're trying to make money off of you, and I don't really trust those companies. So that's why I say try going through like me, a bank, anything that you trust that you feel better with, and let us try to do a consolidation for you, because we'll pay those credit cards off right away. We're not trying to settle with them or anything. We want to try to consolidate everything into one payment. And, we're not going to actually tack on any more fees or anything like that. So like I said, again, if you have any questions or if you're looking to do one, please let me know.
Someone was asking for your contact information. I did provide your email again.
Oh, perfect.
That would be your only contact email, right?
Yes, it's agriffith@cunj.org.
Let me go ahead and ask another question just in case we don't have any more.
Okay.
Uh, would there be like a set percentage or like a good percentage sheet to follow in terms of planning our budget? For example, save 5% of income and then spend 30 to 35% on rent, 15% on transportation, and so on.
Yes, so there is a realistic budget out there that you can do. It's the 50-30-20 rule. I don't know if you ever heard of it, but 50% should be towards your needs. What is a need? Your mortgage payment, your clothes, food. 30% should be for your wants, and 20% should always be for your savings and debt repayment. That's how they really look at it. It's called the 50-30-20 rule. And it's a realistic budget, when you're trying to balance school, work, and family responsibilities all together. And it kind of gives you a sense of what you should be looking at if you're trying to put a budget together. Now, your needs versus my needs are going to be completely different. So that's why sometimes when you're talking to someone, you're like, well, I make sure I pay this. And I'm like, well, why are you paying that? A lot of times I don't really explain to people what my needs are or my wants, because they're going to always be different from somebody else's. But make sure that you do that. That's how I always, like, when I sit with somebody, I always do the 50-30-20 rule. So always remember 50% of your pay should be going towards your needs. 30% should be towards your wants, and 20% should always be for savings, putting your money into savings or even some sort of debt repayment back.
So this will be our contact information. Like I said before, my name is Alexander Sharma. I am the TESU English and Writing peer tutor on the peer support team. So if you're a student at Thomas Edison and you need support with your coursework or your writing classes, or any classes in general, you can reach out here. I'll get back to you, review assignments, or meet via Zoom to go over coursework or different classes that you have or paths to graduation. And yeah, we also have Amanda's contact information up above.
Yes. And if anybody has any questions about anything with finances, it could be something that you just don't understand, and it does never will judge somebody on a question that they have with me. I will sit there and I will go over your credit report. I can even show you how to look at your credit report, how to bring up your scores, any kind of question you have at all. It really could be even what a checking account does for you. Please let me know. I am here to help.
And let me just ask one last question then,
Okay,
if
you got
nobody else
it.
has one. Well, let me ask two. The
Okay.
second one. So the first one is, let's say I'm trying to save. What would you prioritize on saving? Like I've paid off my debt. I've got my needs and my wants kind of balanced. Uh, and perhaps I'm going to school. So what could be like the order in which to save? For example, you said make an emergency fund. Should I put like a high yield savings account so I'm at least earning about 3 or 4% annually? And then after that, prioritize like myself, like to invest in myself, my schooling. And then
Yes.
lastly would be like my retirement, like a 401k or Roth IRA.
Right. So you want to open a Roth IRA. So if you're thinking of like retirement and school, a Roth IRA is a great thing to do. Why? Because you're paying before tax dollars, which means um, you're making your money grow tax free. So at the end, when you retire and you want to take out money from your retirement account, it's completely tax free. You already pay taxes on it. You want to start small. Make sure you're putting like $25 a month away. And it could really make a difference over time. Always, too, if you are working somewhere and they offer a 401k, make sure you ask questions about that. And you want to make sure that you right away start putting money into a 401k with your jobs. Whenever you're out of college and you graduate, you want to make sure you put your money into an investment. Why? Because a lot of these places match. And what am I talking about? So I contribute 5% of my paycheck into my 401 or my 401k. My work matches an extra 5. So it's really 10% that's going in there. So these are things that you want to look at when you're trying to save. Make automatic savings. Like I said, again, have your paychecks when you're getting your payroll checks, make sure that you have money being taken out every single time and put into a savings account. And like you said, the best thing, that high yield savings account at 4%. We even have a checking account right now that's at 6%, the Kasasa checking. So these are things that you really want to look at when you're shopping for banks. And two, you want to make sure that you're getting the best dividend or interest rate out there. So you want to make sure that, you know, you're putting your money and your money's working for you.
All right, and then if I could ask a final question
You got
or
it.
ask your opinion, what would be your, after this, what would be your number one key takeaway? I like that in your other presentation you did yesterday about credit score. You said your one key takeaway, the most important thing to do right now is go to the three, you know, like Experian, or I forget what the three are, but
Yes.
the three financial bureaus, and lock down your Social Security, freeze it so it can't be used by someone maliciously.
Yes. I mean, that's always going to be my number one thing for anybody on here. And I wish we could have gone over it, which just wasn't on this agenda for it. But yes, if you're going to take away anything from today, number one thing is make sure you know what your credit score looks like. Make sure you know how to pull your credit reports. Make sure you're going to Experian, TransUnion, and Equifax, and you're pulling it at least once a year. That's a huge takeaway, and everybody should know what's on their credit report because there is tons of identity theft going on out there. That's one main thing for you. But another main thing too, even after today, just talking about this, I want everyone to understand their financial situation. And I think that's the big takeaway for today's lesson is to understand how much you're making and what your expenses look like and what's your whole financial situation. Because even if you're in college and you're going to graduate and you're going to go on to another career, you want to know what it's going to take for you to get a home one day, or what happens if you wanted children or a dog or a new car. The only way to do it is to look at things and take a picture of your financial situation. And the only way to do that is to save your receipts for a month, know how much is coming out of your account, your expenses, know what kind of income is coming in, and to do the calculation to see. And that's, you know, budgeting is very important on top of looking at your credit reports too, though, as well.
All right, we don't seem to have any more questions.
Okay.
But like I was saying, if you guys have any questions at all, you can feel free to reach out to either one of us, or for Amanda, that's her email on the screen. We'll give you a handout after this. Um, my email is also below. You can email that to the shared inbox where you can contact me or a few other coaches who will help you out with your courses. And we'll also provide a handout at the end of this, like I said. And also, if you have a bit of time, please feel free to take the survey at the end. That'll really help out and give us some feedback. But yes, that concludes our today's webinar. And thank you very much for joining everyone. And thank you, Amanda, for hosting this.
Thank you guys so much.